I want to ask you, as I ask myself, what are your cherished and trustworthy sources of vitality, of wisdom, of inspiration, of beauty, and of power? And in turn, what do you yourself serve as a source of in this world? As ever, Irish tradition and lore offers us a lot of help in addressing these questions. So fáilte a chairde, welcome my friends. I'm delighted you're here. My name is Kate Chadbourne and I am a professor of Irish language and folklore. And that's really what this channel is about, how Irish tradition and imagination and creativity can serve as a source for us today to create joyful lives, creative lives. So let's dive in. We're talking about sources today, and there are many words, many Irish words for sources, depending on what you're talking about, but the one I want to focus on is this, Tobar. Tobar. You can say that at home because it's fun to say, Tobar, and that means a well. It means a spring or a source. And let's focus first on the actual literal holy wells of Ireland. Patrick Logan, who wrote this book, The Holy Wells of Ireland, tells us that there are something like 3,000 holy wells all over the island of Ireland. And I can attest, having visited many of them, that they are busy, active, beloved places of pilgrimage, of prayer, of healing, of continuity. Having some of them have attested activity for hundreds of years. And they're beautiful places that are still important in the landscape today, especially when regards to healing. There are a couple different ways. Sometimes you'll find if you visit one of these wells, now you might be thinking of a well, I think a lot of us might think of a well as a place with a little house over it, kind of what we imagine here as a well in someone's front yard, like a little well that you might drop a coin in for luck. But a lot of these wells, you could walk right past. They're just a little burbling up place, just a little wet place that sometimes actually dries up and sometimes is wet again. Some of these wells, I can say, the very first holy well I visited, I was 20 years old, and it's on the Dingle Peninsula, and it's devoted to St. Gobnet. And that was really the beginning for me of so much learning. And I was there 6 or 7 years ago, and I noticed that the well had been, that it was more built up, essentially. There were more stones placed around it. There was a lovely sculpted head of St. Gobnet placed at the head of the well. But the idea was the same. There was a tin cup sitting on the side with the idea that you could have a drink and that would benefit you. There was the whole Christian idea of pilgrimage, that you could do a certain routine of prayers and movements around the well and gain blessing from that. And there's the idea that actually if you bathe, put a cloth into the well and then bathe an afflicted part, your eyes, or perhaps you have a problem with your heart, press the cloth to your heart, that in time you will receive healing. So these are amazing places, and I have been so lucky in Ireland and Scotland to see whole families come to the well. I remember seeing a grandmother teaching her grandchildren, 2 granddaughters, what to do at the well, which I found really moving. So there are literal places in the landscape, but that of course gives rise to the metaphorical. And this is what I really am interested in today. So that word Tobar, one of the great Irish folklorists called Sean O'Chathaoirleach visited a great storyteller in Donegal in the Blue Stack Mountains, na Cruacha Gorma. Her name is Anya Nicolaouin, and he actually didn't intend to collect folklore from her, but he happened to be going by her house and he heard her telling riddles, and literally hundreds of riddles. And later he described her, and he said that she was like a Tobar fíor-uisce, a well of clear water. So Tobar fíor-uisce literally means a well of true water. And he said of her that she was like a well of a Tobar fíor-uisce that would dry up in a summer drought. He would collect from her all day, and at the end of the day, it would seem that the well had dried up. But when he returned in the morning, the well was full of sparkling, clear, wonderful water, and they would begin again. So I love that, a Tobar fíor-uisce, to be a well that is always renewing. So beautiful, a well of true water. One from our friend Father Deneen that I just love is a Tobar féile, which means a well of hospitality. So this is describing a generous person. Tobar féile, so beautiful. And also to describe a person of knowledge or wisdom is a Tobar eolais, literally a well of knowledge or wisdom. So I love these ways of describing a person as a feature of the landscape, as a well. And I really think that we can become sources ourselves. And so I thought it was fun to consider, what would you like to be a source of, or what are you presently a source of? I thought, you could be a Tobar grin, a well of humor. Some of you are. A Tobar gra, a well of love, a well of friendship, a well of reassurance. Think about this. I think it's a wonderful thing to think about. See what you think. Now, something related to that is the idea that we must protect the integrity and sovereignty of these wells. There are so many stories in Irish tradition of wells that take offense. Someone does the wrong thing, either access the well when they shouldn't, or they don't properly cover the well. There are a lot of stories of there needs to be a cover placed on the well, and when people neglect to put the cover on the well, either it goes away or it moves out of their district, or it overflows and actually becomes a river. Another story that I think speaks to this is there was a well in County Longford, and it was a holy well, and a woman went to the holy well and washed her dirty clothes. She washed her dirty clothes in the well, and as she sullied the well, a calf, as in a baby cow, that lived at the bottom of the well, yes, this is Irish lore, leapt out of the well and began to run from her. And it ran right along the border of County Longford and County Cavan, and it filled up, actually the water from the well chased it, and as it ran, it became Loch Gauna, which means the lake of the calf. So that well is no longer a holy well, it's now a lake. So those stories let us know that we must really protect and be mindful of the integrity and the purity of our sources of inspiration, both in ourselves and in the world. So I want to ask you, what are your sources? What are the wells that you turn to? I honestly believe this world is a world of wells. It's a world of inspiration. There are so many places we can turn. I mean, here we all are, and thank you for being here, turning to the well of Irish tradition and Irish poetry, and poetry in general. Those are certainly wells of inspiration for me, but I would say nature, music, the goodness of people. I'd love to hear for you, what are those wells? And then also, what are you acting as a well of, or what would you like to be a well of or a source of? Do you want to be a Tobar féile, a well of hospitality? It's a wonderful aspiration, I think. We really can decide and learn to become that source in this world. So please leave a comment. I love hearing from you so much. Please like this video. Again, that helps me a lot. And if you haven't already, I'd love it if you would subscribe and join us in this little community here. You are a well of inspiration, all of you, to me. So thank you again for being here. And I'm wishing you a week of inspiration, vitality, wisdom, and joy. I'll see you next week. Slán na nish.